Good evening. Well, they say it's 96 degrees, and today it feels more like it. And there's absolute stillness. Imagine you're looking at a lizard, and you're not sure if it's alive or dead because it's moving so little. That's the wind that we have today, non-existent. There's this notion of what's a busman's holiday, and that is that he gets in a bus and goes somewhere. So what's a trial lawyer's holiday? They go and they watch trials. And when I was in the Southern District of New York, some of the best lawyers in the world were in court. And so in between everything else we did, and we were really busy, and I couldn't believe people were paying me to chase bad guys. And we had such power as young people, men and women, that it's hard to ever get that kind of authority again. And we were constantly drilled with the notion of how we had to be responsible with what authority we had. So today, I had a little bit of that old experience because I had, from courtesy of YouTube, what was going on down in Fulton County, Georgia. And the argument was about, should two people be on trial together, or should these two people be on trial with anyone else but each other or individually? In other words, they wanted to be severed from the mass of 19. And the arguments, therefore, were about the conspiracy and what it meant. And I've lectured on this subject over the years and had some good success with, I think, an understanding of it. I got an entire case dismissed in West Virginia in the last several years, based on the fact that they were prosecuting multiple conspiracies instead of one, which is a due process violation to the defendant who thinks he's only there for one conspiracy. And they were making similar arguments, but they don't have the facts in their case. So let me roll back a little bit about what it's about. We have two people, and one is Chez Bro, or Cheese Bro, or Ches Bro, or however you want to say it. And then we also have Ms. Powell. And so each of them claims, we never saw each other, we never had anything to do with each other. Why are we on trial together? And I think it was explained clearly to the court. But let me break it down because it's not computer science. And the thing I found when I lectured about this years ago is how difficult it seemed for some lawyers to wrap their minds around it. And I don't know why that is, but it was true. So, first of all, there's a general term, conspiracy. And RICO is a form of conspiracy. It's sort of like conspiracy with steroids. And the steroids are, well, let me back up and say, what are the elements of the conspiracy? Two people or more agree to commit a criminal act. Okay. And then they have to do something to further that conspiracy, that criminal agreement. The overt act does not have to be a crime. But it changes the conspiracy from talk to something more. And the reason that an innocent act is sufficient is the notion that the combination of two or more people to commit a crime is more dangerous than if only one person does it. Now in this, we know that there are a lot of people involved. That is to say, in Georgia. We have 19 named defendants. We have 30 unindicted co-conspirators. That's a lot of people. So the argument is, how can you hold us accountable? I don't even know that guy. I didn't know she was going into that county, and so on. And the answer is that there's one criminal agreement that they're all participating in, whether or not they know each other. And it's sufficient that the function of each person is to advance the conspiracy, even if the acts that they use to advance the conspiracy are not crimes themselves. I called so-and-so. I met Joe. I signed a false elector affidavit or provided one, and you get the idea. And so how exactly does it work? Okay, say you and I are in Georgia and we're concerned about getting those extra votes that Biden got, and we're doing that. And somebody in another state is trying to get electors who are not genuine electors on board. And what if you have a lawyer who's running around to all these places, including one in Georgia? So I don't have to know your name or what you're doing, but if what you're doing is this conspiracy, this one conspiracy to do what? To commit a fraud that Trump was denied his right to be elected, as proven by all the cases that are dismissed across the country, and the lawful process by which I can overturn the election is not lawful at all. And you know it. And you know it because the people who wrote these documents knew it. Now, Chesebro, or Chesebro, I like Chesebro myself. If I was Cheesebro, I would be Chesebro, I think. Or maybe I changed my last name to Cheese Brother. I don't know. So, Chesebro, he wrote the document with all of his intelligence. And I'm not joking about his intelligence. I mean this sincerely. This is a guy with a high IQ, long experience in difficult legal cases, and he goes over to the dark side and uses his talent, as he had for years before this, on behalf of some crazy Republican ideas, in my opinion. But, you know, highfalutin people he was working with and for. And so he ends up writing documents, in this case, to further the, quote, lawful BS by which they claim they can legitimately take false electors to stop the vote if only the vice president will agree to be part of their conspiracy, basically, although they don't put it to him that way. But that's what the effect would have been had he, when he knew that it was not lawful and that he did not have the power to do what they wanted, if he had gone forward and did what they wanted. So that's how our vice president, former vice president, gets kudos for doing the right thing. I guess it says something in an atmosphere when everybody else is breaking and disobeying the law. So, okay, so here we have a conspiracy of 19 people, not all of whom know each other. That's not Rudy, that's not Trump, you know. And but it is some people, and they do overt acts. Okay, now here's the key. RICO does two things. It identifies overt acts that in and of themselves are crimes, and it has huge sentences and penalties and things like that that not all conspiracies have. And the model, the original model for this, were conspiracies involving narcotics, basically. And when I went to the Southern District, I wanted to prosecute official corruption cases. I didn't know if I could get assigned to that. And they assigned me, after what I call the petty mail theft unit, to conspiracies involving drug dealers. And these were, some of them were pretty important stuff. And then I did a case involving fraud, so it's political corruption. But it was because I tried those other cases that I think I improved as an investigator. And we had amazing investigators there, Carl Bogan and other people. And so that's what happens in a good office. So what do we have here? We have the question then, can we try 19 people together? Now, I don't mean to put down a courtroom, but that looked like a Judge Judy courtroom to me. And I'm spoiled because in the Southern District of New York at Foley Square, there's a courtroom where they tried the Rosenbergs and ultimately had them executed. And that's a long story and a terrible story. But that courtroom is like a large basketball court. And I have seen trials there with lots of defendants spread out. And the U.S. attorney who appointed me, if I remember correctly, Paul Kern, he had such a trial there. And Bob Fisk, who succeeded him, he also had a trial there. And Paul has passed on to his reward, but Bob Fisk is still with us. And I've always thought of him as like a Roman senator. And this is not a put down. This is a noble man. So you can try big cases. Now, often what happens is people say, I think I'll cooperate now. I see where this is going. Timing's important in that case. Timing is important in that case. You don't get it right, you don't get a deal. Come in early. And I think I've told you before that we used to say to some people that we're gathering the people who are cooperating with us. They're getting on a bus. And at a certain point, we're pulling out, and there will be no deals with anyone else. And so at that point, you're either on the bus or under it. And I thought that that was a fair way to put it because, you know, trying to make it sound less than that is not fair to the person you're trying to get to cooperate. You know, that it's a commitment. You're either on one side of the fence or the other. You're either on the side, if you have such information, giving information and saying, that's it, I'm in 100%, tell you everything I know. Or you're fighting for your civil liberty. You're fighting against the facts that claim you committed a crime or crimes. So that's where we are now. And we had our first hearing today. And if you saw any of it, the judge sounded like he was asking the kinds of questions in which he might actually sever the two people who asked. You know, you might just sever them. And there were a lot of arguments that suggested that might make sense. And so what did he do in the end? He went with the prosecution. No severance, no separation. See you all in court. The date's October 23rd, and there'll be motions, and there'll be other things. I'll bring you in the courtroom. You can tell me about those things, and we're going ahead. Because what's the alternative? 7, 8, 10, 4-month trials, 4-week trials. And guessing how long a trial is going to take is always a dangerous proposition, having forecasted to the court always with the proviso, well, it depends. It depends on cross, it depends on the witness being there, it depends on me not getting sick, the judge not getting sick, some juror not having a major problem. So these things are stage productions, but their objective is not entertainment. It's an accounting, if merited, or it's an exercise in justice that this person is not involved in this conspiracy. Now, not to be cynical, but sometimes prosecutors choose a couple of defendants who are weak targets of the investigation. And one of the reasons is when they convict 17 of 19, they can point to those two and say, see, it was fair because they got acquitted. You know, it's one way. There are tricks, and that's why experience matters for the judge, the prosecution, and the defense. And there are several experienced lawyers in this case. And another problem is, say you have two people at the trial and a conflict arises. Well, you can sever them out then, you can have a mistrial, they can be tried later, and so forth. So, we're launched. The creature is alive and will begin taking prisoners by October, I think. And there was also a question, what about the removal application? And I got the impression the judge had not read some of the papers in that. And the most critical one was, the federal removal statute has zero effect on the local, that is the state prosecution, unless and until the removal occurs. So, it's entirely possible that the federal judge will do nothing at all. And when he does nothing at all, the court will be allowing, indeed, by law and authority, to continue wherever it goes, up to and including conviction. So the judge didn't seem to know that today. The prosecution did not want to get into that discussion because they obviously have to bring to the court's attention the authority about that, and or perhaps the assistant on the case who is familiar with that argument and ready to use it. So that's my little tutorial on what's a conspiracy. Watch out for those overt acts. Watch out for those overt acts in a RICO case. Better find out that there are several conspiracies early on, or you'll be dragged down with everybody else, except perhaps two that will prove the whole thing was fair. So we're off to the races. It sounds like we're going to have a meeting with the judge, one a week or more, and I think he's working on that right now. So the case in D.C. is simpler in a way because the only defendant is Trump, and the judge has set certain dates, and we'll see how they work out. But if the October date goes forward, it's really a question if they'll finish that before the D.C. trial would go forward. But welcome to my world. This is why trial lawyers will watch trials. In fact, when I tried cases, and this wasn't peculiar to me, there was a group in the courthouse that would follow different assistants around to watch their trials. And I had some at different times who'd watch me. And when we were in the breaks, I'd ask them, so it's like Ed Koch used to say to the people of the city of New York, how am I doing? So I say, how am I doing? And they would tell you, they didn't hold back. And similarly, they also brought up your spirits. Oh, that was really good, that question you asked. Oh, that was stupid, that other thing you did. And so it's like having people judge your chess game in real time while you're doing it with the breaks that you have. There's no question that Georgia is going to have to move that case to another room. And the colors drive me crazy. I don't know who approved that stuff. It really does look like Judge Judy. Nothing against the skills of the participants, but that certainly rings true. And watch, and you'll see what every defense attorney knows. In any case, long argument, judge appears persuaded. Which way does he or she go? Prosecution. It's the prosecution. So it's only a question of time before Trump has a rubber-walled cell to take up his energies. So that's it for me, and I'm on the Cathedral of Trees, and it's hot tonight, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.